welcome to Gorilla Position. Thank you for your time today. How is, obviously a weird time around the world at the moment, things are easing, but how have these last few months been for you?
I'm getting by.
You're getting by, good. Now, firstly, I wanted to say congratulations. It's not often a performer makes a debut with a kind of excitement and theatre surrounding it that you've done in NXT. How is life treating you on the gold and black brand? And has it sort of matched your expectations ahead of arriving in WWE?
Thank you. It has exceeded my expectations in terms of, I guess you could say, flexibility and being met with creativity in such a way where it expands on our own creativity.
Okay. And how did the journey to WWE happen for you? Because you worked at Global Force Wrestling, Lucha Underground, AAA, Impact, but presumably, or maybe I'm wrong to assume this, but presumably WWE was always the goal for you?
I would definitely say that. I think that was always the end game, was to find a way here, but not necessarily just be here to participate in a big way. And that is, there's no rule book or playbook for that. It's something you have to find.
And was there a match or a moment you watched as a kid that made you sit up and think, this is what I want to be doing with my life?
I think this was always my first passion. One of the very first memories I had, like at all, was I think the Ultimate Warrior beating Hulk Hogan. I remember seeing that in the living room as a little kid. I can almost kind of put myself back in myself as a child watching that. And I've always gravitated back to this as a personal interest, something I always wanted to do.
And once you broke in, I mean, you've been active, sort of working for promotions for about 5 years now. Is that right? What's the journey been like to you? Was it a real struggle breaking in? How have your experiences been?
Plentiful. I've enjoyed this entire experience. I think that a lot of people become really obsessed with arriving at a destination, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it becomes a very negative thing when you are not enjoying the process and the ride there. I can definitely tell you that I've enjoyed all of the experiences on the way here, on the way to getting here, and while I've been here, they've all been amazing. I feel like I've grown as a person, aside from a professional. And yeah, this is the life that I chose, and this is the life I'm enjoying.
And there were rumors circulating for months that your arrival may be imminent in WWE. It was officially announced in February on WWE Backstage. And I remember reading reports sort of citing you as the hottest free agent in wrestling. Was there a lot of pressure, given fans' expectations were so high, to see what you could do in WWE?
I suppose there was, but I've said it before. I don't necessarily identify pressure the same way other people do. I feel like pressure for me is a good thing. I feel like I perform better and I make better decisions under pressure, and that sort of pressure to deliver on what was to be anticipated made me very excited, actually, about doing it. It made it feel more important. It made it feel bigger and better. And I feel like it really brought the best out of me. And I find that generally happens when I'm in those types of situations. I was really actually thoroughly embracing.
Awesome. I mean, expectations were certainly met by the fans when you arrived. I mean, I include myself in that. Blown away by, in particular, the entrance you made. Spectacular entrance, you and Scarlett, that music, the lighting, the smoke, the theatrics of it all was so incredible. Specifically now in this era where we're seeing a lot of sort of cinematic moments in wrestling, it was so impressive. How much of that was you? How much of it came from Triple H and the team? Is it a quite a collaborative affair down there?
I would definitely say it was collaborative. I don't think that we would have been able to create that sort of entrance anywhere else. I think that the lighting people are to thank, the graphics people are to thank, all of the producers and agents that were involved are to thank. And Scarlett and I were involved with the entire process all the way from beginning to end, which we loved. You know, we've definitely never shied away from any sort of hard work or being accountable creatively for anything that we're doing. We like that style. We like to be, you know, on the ground level, kind of in the mud, creating that type of stuff. And we were part of the whole process. We really felt like we were onto something right off the bat with it, you know.
It's amazing. Like, I mean, I still watch it now and think, you know, it's an incredible sight. And not including yours, obviously, who would you say has the best entrance of all time? Like, was there an entrance you watched as a kid, whether it came from a fan or just the sort of theatrics in the presentation? Is there anything that sticks out to you?
I think The Undertaker probably has the best entrance of all time. And I've said it before as well. I feel like Taker has always had his own gravity, you know. I feel also like one of the reasons why it was the best entrance of all time is because it's not necessarily for his time period just a general pro wrestling entrance. It wasn't like the music hit and the guy marched down to the ring. I think there was something that transcended where we were at that time watching as viewers. It was completely different. I think that his entrance even appealed to mainstream entertainment, to give you an example. I think that you could put someone who's not a wrestling fan in front of the television at that time and even now, and you can show them the way one guy walks down to the ring, and then you can show them the way the Undertaker walks down to the ring, and you'll get a completely different reaction. So I feel like in that regard, it transcended what everyone else and everything was doing.
Yeah. Now, since you've arrived in NXT, has there been someone, whether it's been a fellow on-screen talent or someone backstage, is there someone who's sort of taken you under their wing and helped you along the way?
Yes.
Who's that person?
I'm not going to tell you.
Oh, interesting. Okay. And why? That is interesting to me. Why? Tell me. Are you one of these performers, and I totally respect it if you are you one of these performers who likes to sort of hold a bit back and not reveal everything that goes on backstage? Because there was a time when it was such a protected business.
I will admit that I am very old-fashioned. This is the way I came up. These are the people I came up around, and I try to preserve that. Not to be difficult. I think there will be a time and a place for all things to be revealed on that front, and I think everyone will appreciate that I didn't just let the whole story out, so to speak, so early.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's you being difficult at all, and as I said, I really respect that, and I think, you know, you mentioned The Undertaker, famously sort of kept it all under wraps for 3 decades. And so with that, and the fact that we're learning more about someone like Mark Calloway through the Last Ride series on the network, do you feel like it's a shame that we're now seeing the man behind the myth, or do you think it's the right time?
My opinion on it, I mean, I'll speak from, I think the best thing to do on that subject would be to speak from a fan perspective, right? You know, because before I was a professional, I was a fan, and I was 100% a fan of his. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, and I think that knowing that this is something that he's chosen to do, I think that this is something that is perhaps cathartic or therapeutic for someone who has done everything that he's done. I think it's pretty cool to see. I think it's pretty amazing that he let everyone in, you know, behind the curtain, putting it up, and I think it made it all the more important that he's never done that before, and now he's doing it. It makes it really special. It's been very eye-opening for me, and I've enjoyed the program. I was pumped every time I saw something come out a couple of days before it was getting released. I was like, oh, you know, it was cool. It was very cool for me. So
yeah, it's a very special show for a very special talent, obviously. Now, obviously, you're early on in your NXT run. But there does seem to be a general feeling amongst fans that talents who have an incredible run in NXT are then, in a lot of cases anyway, not then used to their full potential on quote unquote the main roster. and Shayna Baszler is the latest sort of hot topic on this. What are your thoughts on this? And is this anything that's sort of discussed backstage at NXT, and talents on NXT actually think, well, I'd be happy staying here and never going to Raw or SmackDown? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I can tell you, I mean, Scarlett and I are very happy in NXT. We feel like all of the things that we personally want to do, we're doing. And aside from that, aside from personal interest, professionally, I feel like we are checking off the boxes, so to speak, if I could say that humbly and respectfully. I feel like what we need to contribute in terms of character presentation within the things that you guys are seeing, segments and so forth, I feel like we're able to do that there. And there's no issues. Not to say that there would be issues anywhere else, but we're enjoying this entire process. So we don't really necessarily focus on what's going on anywhere else. We are given, a direction to go in, and then we create. And that's pretty much what we focus on. We want, with the time allotted, we want to engage the viewer as much as humanly possible, and then some. And that's kind of where our focus is generally at. We don't really become consumed with anything else going on. If you want to know what's going on, you can go out there and you can go digging for it, but it doesn't, I don't know, I feel like it takes away from your energy, and your energy should be going towards the fans and your craft, So me personally, and she's the same way, we really don't get tied up much in any other direction other than giving you guys the absolute best we can.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it's certainly working. And with that in mind, is there anything you're sort of planning? What do you plan on bringing to the table to NXT that we haven't seen before? Because it's been such, I love NXT. So many people love NXT, and it's been such a creative hotbed since its formation. How do you plan on really putting your stamp on the legacy of that brand?
It's going to be difficult for anyone to kind of go in that direction and do that, because NXT has been comprised of some of the best things we've ever seen in the business. Finding something original and finding sort of an independent direction for yourself there is going to become more difficult as time goes on. But I feel like we're off to a very good start in terms of people feeling like something is ours. As you had mentioned before the entrance, this is very much ours. It's very individual, and it has its own identity aside from anything else that we've seen there. So I feel like if we keep going in that direction, personally, creatively, I feel like we're going to find exactly what you're looking for. I think that charting that course, what you're saying, we don't necessarily work that way. We're very organic, so to speak. We kind of allow things to find us, and then we kind of go down that road and then create on the way. And that's kind of what you've been seeing. So that's how I would answer the question. I can't answer it in a linear way or a conventional way. We're going to find creative things on the way to wherever the crowd leads us. And believe me, we're always listening. Even though they're not there, we're listening.
Yeah, I love that. Now, talking of Scarlett and yourself, obviously real life couple working together as well. You've got to have your moments. Are there any sort of annoying things that she does on show days?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Well, what about the sweetest thing she does, just to balance it out? Like, do you guys have any sort of pre-match rituals before you go out there?
I feel like her and I stopped talking about 20 to 30 minutes before we hit the stage, because there's a switch. Her and I kind of go. Yeah, and she did that before I met her as well. And I was doing that as well. There's a switch that takes place where her and I, as we know each other, are out of the room because they can't be there. They absolutely can't be there when it's time to hit the stage and the cameras go on. There's a total switch, and everything we do from there is together is very short eye contact. There's a turn, so to speak. And I've always loved that about us. It was something we never even discussed. It was something we kind of just naturally did.
That's very cool and very interesting to hear you say that, based on your sort of old school mentality as well, really just getting into that moment. I love
Yeah.
that. Finally, and this is probably the most over-asked question of all time, but I will go with it because it usually delivers a good answer. Dream matches in WWE. It's fair to say the roster is unlike it's ever been, ever. The talent across all three brands is phenomenal. Have you got anyone that you've particularly got your eye on for a big, say, when we're back in the stadiums, a big WrestleMania match?
You said WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I would definitely say Brock Lesnar.
Oh, lovely stuff. Okay. Is he the pinnacle for you on-screen performers, in-ring talent? Do you look at Brock and think that's the measuring stick?
Well, the measuring stick, it depends on the context, right? Like the way you would draw up what the measuring stick looks like might be different from the way someone else does, right? For me, the measuring stick would essentially be who can draw the most into a building, who can draw the most attention. And I think that he's a guy who has transcended just sports entertainment. He's in mainstream entertainment. I think that figures like that in the business are critically important because we always need new fans. We always want to create new fans. I think that there are people who can engage the hardcore fans nonstop, easily, no problem. The purists, I guess you could say. And then there are people that have a mainstream entertainment appeal. I respectfully don't know if, in my opinion, he would be the measuring stick so much as maybe The Rock would be the measuring stick. And I say that because in terms of generating attention and interest, I think maybe he's the highest paid actor in Hollywood. I think I read that from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
He came from here, I think that if we're ever if someone wants to emulate the absolute most success that you can find in this business, I would probably say The Rock is definitely the guy in terms of, it just depends on what your interpretation of success is. If you're talking about an ability to endlessly provide for yourself and your family and everyone around you and bring and draw as much attention as you possibly can back to pro wrestling and sports entertainment, he would be the guy. But selfishly, I think Brock Lesnar and The Rock would be my perfect ideal WrestleMania matches. Those would be the ones I would selfishly be interested in.
Yeah.
The proper way to put it. And these are matches too that have been brought to my attention for an extended period of time over the years by fans. So, and I've said it before, and not to be redundant, but I tend to lean into things that the fans want to see because you can't ever forget why you're doing this. You really can't, and you got to listen. So,
yeah. Well, you said it best. You're always listening. Very wise. Well, Karrion Kross, an absolute pleasure to meet you. I wish you all the success because I'm loving what you're doing on NXT so far. Onwards and upwards. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Excelsior.